welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be part 2 of my eyeshadow makeup inventory. So I'm going to go over all of my indie eyeshadow palettes as well as all of my Natasha Denona and Pat McGrath. I had my first part where I went over more of my mainstream palettes, more of my smaller palettes, but I have a lot of palettes, so we had to break this up into 2 videos. If you like makeup inventory videos, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet, but there's a lot to go over, so we're just gonna get started. All right, so like I've been saying in all of my makeup inventory videos, this is gonna be more just me showing my collection, swatching some things, and less of a declutter. I do have some more hardcore declutter videos. I'll link the playlist up above and down below if you're more into declutters, but I probably won't be doing any decluttering today. It's more just talking about these shadows, swatching some things, and just why I love them all and showing you some sparkle goodness. So these are all my indies and Natasha Denona, Pat McGrath. I have those in separate drawers. So I think we're just gonna get started here. I do have them by brand, which helps. And these drawers aren't as full as my other ones because I do have a lot of indie palettes in my speed review drawer, which I'm not gonna go over or anything like that until they're fully tested, put away in my actual collection. I'm not counting them as part of my inventory. So these drawers are a little bit lighter just so I have room to expand because indie's definitely been kind of like my hyperfixation as of late, and I've been really enjoying them. Let's go over Glaminatrix, top 3 indie brand for me that I just really, really like. First off, I have the Glaminatrix Cosmetics Fairy Lights. This is just a 6-pan of some special shadows here. I really, really like it, but I actually need to put this in my singles drawer, which I already did that video on. Even though it's a palette, I'm gonna use these as singles, so it's better that I just put it in that drawer so I don't forget about it. But Glaminatrix shimmers just cannot be beat. They're so smooth, so metallic, but sparkly at the same time. I can't get enough of it. But this one's gonna go to the side here. And then my favorite Glaminatrix palette is the Rich Romantic. This is one of their newer ones, other than the Pastel Dreams, which I don't plan on picking up because even though it's my favorite brand, I don't need every palette. I really enjoy these shimmers here. I really enjoy the tones. The Nearly Natural, let me just swatch one of these for you first. It's so multi-dimensional without being like a multi-chrome. I think we're all just a little bit over the ultra multi-chromes. This still has some shifts, but it's not so dark. The Nearly Natural was my favorite for a while. Unfortunately, you can't get it anymore, but I don't know. There's something about this that's just a little bit more special. Naked Eye is stunning. I mean, again, like Glaminatrix has some of the best shimmers in my opinion, which is why it's one of my top favorite just indie brands. Sugar and Spice. I like this one. I definitely like the purples. The color story's a little confusing to me. Any videos that I have on individual palettes like I do on this one will be also down in the description box, as well as my playlist. That's just my eyeshadow palette playlist. But you know, I like the shades in here individually. I don't know if these are magnetic. I have to see. How can I do this? There we go. But like the shades are pretty, but the color story is a little bit just confusing to me. I don't know. I need to figure out this palette more. I'm just not creative enough for it. And the Into the Night is probably my least favorite. I did 3 looks with this palette, and while I didn't hate the looks, I actually really enjoyed the look I did with this quad here. Again, like the color story is just not my favorite, but the shimmers, like really, really pretty. Here's that blue on the rock shade. So overall, like we'll keep all these palettes, but these 2 are my least favorite. I definitely recommend these 2 over those. This is the Adept Emmanuette Light Palette. This is my first time trying Adept, and I have to say, I wasn't like fully impressed. I hear a lot of really good things. Like Adept is some people's #1 favorite brand. And while the shimmers are pretty, I don't know. I wasn't blown away. A little bit more hard pressed than Glaminatrix. I wasn't as impressed as some other indie brands. Maybe this is just an older palette and I need to try. Like I really kind of want the Flying Fiddles, but indie palettes are just so expensive to like take a chance on a palette when I didn't really love this one. If you have any thoughts on Adept, I would love to know, because I don't know. I'm just like, they're like mid-tier for me. And then these from Ace Beauté, I actually really did not like these. I have the Calla, which is kind of like a neutral color story. I have the Fleur, which is the purple. And then I have the Begonia. This was my first time trying Ace Beauté. Really was like not impressed. Love the packaging. Not fully ready to like let these go yet. But I don't think I'll be purchasing from Ace Beauté in the future unless a color story really calls to me where I feel like taking a chance on them. I don't know. This is also a brand, I mean, I would rank it lower than Adept, but this was also a brand I was left confused on why so many people talk about it. Now, as far as Odens Eye, I have more from Odens Eye, but they're in my speed reviews drawer. I have the Sea Talk palette, which looks like this. And I'm going to get rid of these sleeves. I don't know why. Sometimes I keep them and sometimes I don't. Flora Story. This is definitely the palette that made me want this collection. And the Perfect World collection was actually the first collection I picked up from Odens Eye. Then I have the holiday palettes. I have Snow Dream, which wasn't a bad one. This was my favorite of the two for the newer holiday. Then I have the Merry Christmas, which is in the bottom half. Then Christmas Eve is my favorite. Looks like this. And Hey Reindeer was my least favorite. This is kind of like a spring color story. The color story just confuses me. Do really like this shade here. Like individually, again, like pretty shades, but as a color story, I was just left wanting a little bit more, and these other ones made more sense to me. Then we have Lethal. Lethal was kind of like the first indie brand that I tried where I really started getting hyper fixated on indie. Really enjoy the mattes. This was the first collection that I tried from them. They're like charity quads. So I have the Rescue, right? Is this the Rescue one? One's the Rescue quad, and then one's the Wildlife quad. Yeah, I think this is Rescue, the more purpley one, and then Wildlife, that would make the most sense. This shade's a little bit weird, like doesn't fit in the palette to me because it's kind of like a silvery, whereas the rest of these are like brown, but that's okay. I enjoy Lethal's mattes more than I enjoy their shimmers. This is the Midnight Serenade palette. This I have to keep the outer little carton for because it says the name of the palette here, but not on the actual box. So this is what this one looks like. Unfortunately, you can't take the pans out of this palette. I wish you could. Like, I wish they had really stuck and committed to that theme. But this is my favorite Lethal palette that I've tried. Then I have Wildflower. Again, I'm going to toss that, which looks like this. Very fun springtime palette. However, it was like a part 2 to the Nightflower, which is this one. And this is clearly night, like very dark. And I like to mostly use these palettes together. I find that they work really well together, and that's not always my favorite thing to do. So I don't reach for these palettes as much as I wish I did. But those are all my Lethals. And that kind of completes this drawer here. So let's go over my last drawer of indie, which is all right here. And I have the Ensley Rain Midwinter Dream. Ensley Rain is so beautiful. I don't need this. All right. And I wish that you could still get this palette. You can't, unfortunately, but really, really, really pretty shimmers. And I'm glad I picked this up before it was discontinued. Some of these are just stunning. I have some other Ensley Rain, but they're in my speed review drawer, so we're not gonna go over them just yet, but that's why, you know, there's room to expand with these drawers here. Cosmic brushes. I have 3 of them, Cosmic Beauty now, I guess. And I also really love Cosmic Beauty. I mean, their mattes are also fantastic. Shimmers, solid shimmers, like really pretty shimmers still. This is like one of my only pastel palettes. You can see I have a type when it comes to shimmers, but that's the Cosmic Delicious Delights. I have the Gothic. I love this Pale Moon shade here. Just a really pretty neutral. And then I have the Muse. The Serenity doesn't really interest me as much. This one's unique, very much so for me. Like, I do not have any palette in my collection with this kind of color story at all. The shimmers are solid, but the mattes are really what takes Cosmic Beauty up to another level, in my opinion. A lot of the time with indies, they don't have the best mattes, and when they do have a solid matte and shimmer formula, that's what takes them up to the next level. So I think that's why Cosmic Beauty is getting as much hype as it is. Bella Beauté Bar, I only have the Basic Witch, but I love it. It looks like this, and I want to purchase more from Bella Beauté Bar, but they're also quite on the pricey side, so I'm going to hold off for a while. I'm happy with this one. Their shimmers are really good. I heard that they improved their matte formula, which is why I think more people are talking about them. I don't know though, because I have the newer matte formula. Simply Posh Cosmetics, the surprising just win for 2023. Really happy with this palette. I wish you could still get it. I've been seeing some old palettes from Simply Posh that I wish I could pick up, but it seems like they discontinue their stuff pretty quickly, which is a shame. Where'd that go? There it is. Okay. All their shimmers and their mattes, again, like that's what makes indie stand apart, is when their mattes are equally as good as their shimmers. So when I talk highly about an indie brand, it usually means that they just have a good formula all around. And I just love the simplicity of this palette and how easy it is to create looks. For me, I'm not someone who always reaches into too much color, but this is approachable color for me, and I really, really, really like this. I do consider Glamlight indie. I'm considering it indie for now, but this is the Scooby-Doo palette. It looks like this. Mostly have it for the franchise. I love Scooby-Doo, and I'm happy with this palette, even though it is very, very big and bulky. I don't like big palettes, but I will keep it and make an exception in this case. Really enjoyed these looks, and Glamlight has a really nice formula, actually. I was surprised that it was as good as it was. 2 more indie brands left. I have Gloss Gods and I have What's Up Beauty. The Dragon one's in my speed review, but I have the Geodes. What's Up Beauty is top 3 indie brands for me. I love all their palettes. I love how approachable they are with just the special shimmers. Here's Desert Monsoon. I actually like Desert Monsoon over Geodes if I had to pick one, but they're really great palettes. And then Gloss Gods, also really nice, really good European indie if you're looking for something that's in Europe. This is New Neutrals, probably my least favorite out of all of them. Not surprising because it has more warm tones, but they have really unique shimmers in that they'll have kind of like the Glaminatrix shimmer, they'll have textured shimmers, they'll have more metallics. They just have like a little bit of everything. Vintage Glam. This is probably my favorite out of the 3, maybe. Yeah, I think so. This is one of the textured ones. You have to be careful, you know, and kind of tap your finger in with the textured ones. But here is that. I mean, it is more of a thicker shimmer for sure. You can't really like sheer it out. Like if you're gonna go for this shimmer, you're going for it. There's no dulling it down at all. And then Smoke and Mirrors, which is also just a really, really pretty palette and a lot of options. I mean, this gray tone here is, again, like there's no going halfway with this shimmer. It's all or nothing. And that's all of my indie palettes. So I'm gonna kind of put this back as best as I can. And then we're gonna get to, I think, Natasha Denona, and we'll end with Pat McGrath. My Natasha drawer needs to be reorganized. It's just looking a little bit all over the place. I don't have all the Natasha Denona palettes, surprisingly. Even though I really love their formula, I try to be a little bit picky as much as I can and resist the ones that I know won't get too much use out of me. So let's just kind of go through these. I have Natasha Denona Xenon, which is maybe one I shouldn't have gotten, but I cracked. It'll come in handy, especially since the pans are removable, but maybe not my best purchasing decision. I have the Glam palette, top 2. I did a video ranking all of my Natasha Denona palettes, so I'll link that video as well if you want to see it. Then in this midi size here, I also have the I Need a Nude. Love this one a lot. I know a lot of people love it, but it really is. I had the Biba and I decluttered the Biba because this one is so much better in my opinion. Then I have the Retro, probably my second favorite. I like this one a lot. And the Love palette, probably my least favorite midi, if I'm being honest. I thought about decluttering this one, but I really don't want to. I want to maybe try to play around with this color story, see if I can make it more just cohesive for me and a little bit more manageable. So I'm going to try to do that before I fully declutter it. As far as the minis go, let's go over all the minis. So I have the Mini Love, which quite honestly I like more than the Love. It gives the same vibes, but just in smaller format. The Mini Glam, right? Yes. Make sure I know what I'm talking about. Then the Mini Gold. I like this one. You can obviously see here I have the gold palette, which I'm going to flip just so it's not reflecting too much, but it has more of these greens than the actual gold, which I guess I'll just show you. This doesn't really have greens in it. It has mostly just different tones of browns with the blue. I mean, you kind of have this green duochrome here, but it definitely is different than the Mini Gold. More of an extension, which I do appreciate. So I'd rather her do that than kind of do her repeat shades like she does sometimes. Back to the minis, I have the Mini Retro. Then I have the Mini Star. Yep, Mini Star. I have the Mini Nude. I know everyone loves this one, but it's a little bit warm. I prefer the Mini Glam over the Mini Nude. And then the Mini Dream, the Mini My Dream. I don't have the midi, as you can see, My Dream palette. It was just a little bit warm for me. I might end up picking that one up eventually. It might get some use out of me, but I didn't pick it up when it launched, and it's not on my list to get right now. And then the Mini Lila palette, which clearly I have the full-size Lila. I purchased this before I picked up the full size. I bought this when I found out they were going to discontinue it because I had this on my wish list for so long, but I haven't cracked into it just yet. But these mattes, I mean, are so delicious. Like I love this like muted, desaturated kind of mauve tone. So I'm excited to eventually get into this one. You can see that I kind of have the older ones. I don't have the pastel. I don't have the bronze, the sunset for sure. Like for sure those were easy passes. I don't have the Retro Glam, which I kind of want, and I don't have the Yucca, which I might consider that one as well. I do have the Metropolis. I know a lot of people wish they got their hands on it. I'm glad that I did, even though this for sure is my most neglected palette. You can see I've gotten use out of it. I've really tried to find my way with this palette, but there's only certain shades that I really go into. Like I like the greens, I like the browns. It's mostly just these really warm like reds here. This orange is not really my speed. So I'm glad I have this. I never declutter it. And then the Star palette, I also picked this up, I think when I picked up the Lila and the Gold, because those were the three on my just top wish list when I couldn't really afford them. And love this palette as well. I know that this is one of her older palettes, but for me, one of my favorites still. I wish that it was in like this more compact form, like the middies. I like that she's gone this direction and she's gone away from this and like the Metropolis, etc. But I could never get rid of this. I wanted it so bad. And then last up, I have my 5 pans, which is what she came out with before she came out with these mini ones. So I have, this is the Camel palette. Yep. I use this one a lot actually because it's more neutral browns rather than really rich, deep brown browns. Then I have the Ayana. I think I got this in BoxyCharm. Like a lot of people really like the cool tones in here. Then I have, this is the palette number 2. This is when she just had names for them. Also has like these rich pinky kind of mauve shades. You can see she really had a type back then of just like this kind of shade in a lot of her palettes back in the day. I feel like there's repetitiveness and now she has gone a different direction, but also enjoy this one. I decluttered a few of my 5 pans when I did my ranking. And then this last one is the Coral palette, which I also have unopened. And it looks like this, and I'm happy with this. I wanted this for so long. I bought this a long time ago, but it was in my storage unit since I moved, and I hadn't brought it over. I finally have it now, so I'm happy to have it. But now let's kind of rearrange this drawer here. We'll get to Pat McGrath, and we'll wrap up. Okay, that fits pretty nicely with room to grow here a little bit, so I'm not too mad at it. Like I said, I have a few of the middies on my wish list, but it's not urgent. I'm enjoying indie right now, so that's why it's just not top of my list to get. Let's go over to my Pat McGrath drawer. Here's my Pat McGrath drawer. I actually have less because I decluttered a ton of these quads. I didn't declutter any of my motherships. I decluttered some of these 6 pans. But they're just so bulky is the problem, which is why it takes up so much space. So let's just get started on these quads that I have. I stopped keeping the outer packaging unless I found it really special, so I did not keep the packaging for these. I'm gonna take that off. This one is the Deep Space Divinity. I thought this one was unique, at least in my Pat McGrath collection. It does have like this kind of classic blue to brown shifting shade, but as far as Pat McGrath goes, this one's kind of special. Then this one is, let's see here, Voyeuristic Vixen. Her stuff is always hard to say. And this one has this really pretty kind of shifty shade in here as well. Very textured and crumbly, but it is very, very pretty. So these are the 2 quads that I kept other than the Blitz Astral quads. So these were like her first quads she came out with. And I have the Ritualistic Rose, which I believe you can still purchase. And I only keep the box because it has the shades on it, which is helpful. So that's what this one looks like. This one is so pretty. I have to swatch it. That's what that one looks like. And then I have Iconic Illumination. I only picked up 2 of the 3. I think there was like Nocturnal something, but that one was a little bit too colorful for me back when these came out. And again, like this one, super pretty. These like, it's so just glittery and sparkly. I will say that Pat McGrath's a little bit overhyped, a little bit not worth the money, especially now, I think. But back then when she first came out, I do think it was something special. She just hasn't like continued to bring that innovation that she had when she first came out. And I think that's been part of her downfall. She just almost became like cash grabby. Let's go into maybe these 6 pans here. So the first one that I have is Platinum Bronze. I decluttered like the Lunar New Year. I decluttered the one with the red Christmassy packaging. I decluttered a few of these, but this is one of the ones that I kept because as you can see, it has cool tones. I did also video ranking on my Pat McGrath palettes, so that'll be linked down below if you're interested. I mean, my collection's grown a little bit since then, but you can still see that. This is from the Valentine's collection, the Love collection a couple years ago. And I have the Iconic Infatuation, which typical Pat McGrath. And then I have the Velvet Liaison, which is her all matte palette. I love this palette a lot. I said it before and I'll say it again, but I feel like the mattes in this palette are different from her other typical mattes. They're just a lot easier to blend. A lot of people agree that the mattes in the Pat McGrath Mothership palettes can be sometimes a little bit tough. Then all of these are from her holiday like quints. So I have quite a few here. I have Bronze Bliss, which is the first one that came out. And then the other first one is this one, which is Nude Allure. And that one looks like this. Not very special at all. Bronze Bliss was much better. Then the one from this last holiday, Lunar Nightshade. This one I think was her most popular one because of the blues, and it's a little bit different. I have Bronze Ecstasy. This one was actually my favorite one. You can see I really dipped into this shade here. Then Bordeaux Bliss, the more purpley one. This is the only one that has 5 shimmers in it, no mattes. And then Sunset Romance, which of course had to happen because it is Pat McGrath's signature style here. So those are all my quints, all the 6 pans, and all the quads. I think we just have the motherships left, which I'm going to take them all out of the box before we talk about them. I'm going to go in order, the mothership order. So the first one I have is Mothership 1 Subliminal. This is the cool tone one with the pop of blue. One of my favorites, even though it doesn't look touched. I'm just a very light-handed person. This shade, super pretty. And what started to really get Pat McGrath popular. Then after that, I have the Sublime, I'm pretty sure. This was my first Pat McGrath Mothership purchase with the green. I don't know what it was, but the green just drew me into this palette. Plus it has this iridescent Blitz Astral and this like pinky one here. I am covered in glitter, but I really love this shade in particular. And it was the first one that I wanted. Then we have Mothership 7, which is the original Divine Rose. This got so much hype when it came out. It was just so unique and everyone loved it, but I will have to agree that it's not my favorite one. Let's swatch this shade though. That is so pretty. I love just like these topper, it's kind of like Ritz, I guess would be the best way from ColourPop to explain it, like just pure sparkle. Then Mothership 8, Divine Rose 2. I like this better than Divine Rose. This is just more rose to me. You have this like shifty shade here that goes from pink to green. It's much more just, I don't know, fits the theme better in my opinion. And then the last Mothership I have is number 9, which is Midnight Sunset. So that one has the purple, which I love. And this is a little bit more warm tone, not overall my speed, but because it has like the khaki, more of like this neutral brown, it's more neutral. You have like this neutral red here. I like it better than pure warm tones. Let's swatch the purple, kind of like a periwinkle purple. As you'll notice, I don't have Bronze Ecstasy. I know that one's really popular. I never was really interested in that or the Decadence or whatever the third one was. I do really want, number 1 on my list is Moonlit Seduction. That one looks just stunning. Do plan on picking up maybe like Utopian Dreams. Not the last one, which I think was Sunrise Seduction, right? I think it was playing off of Moonlit Seduction. and that's what that one was called. That one I'm not interested in all. Moonlit Seduction's definitely the first one that I plan on getting, but I won't get them until she does some kind of 40% off sale. I think that last Black Friday, she didn't even go up to 40%. She only went up to 30%, which is why I didn't end up purchasing from her last Black Friday when I usually do. That's how I've acquired most of these, is from purchasing from her during like a Black Friday sale. Definitely don't purchase any of her stuff full price. Recommend waiting for a sale. I'm always just disappointed when I purchase something from her full price and find out later I could get it for half off. It's just not worth it at full price, in my opinion. I mean, money is relative. You can do what you want with your money. But that is all of my palettes. We don't have too much left to go over. We still have my single shadow collection and my lipstick collection. That's going to be a big one because I'm going to be swatching out every single one of my lipsticks. So stay subscribed if you want to see those videos. But this is where I'm going to leave you all. I love your just comments on what palettes you love out of all the ones that I showed you today. Which ones are your holy grails? Info on Adept, because I just can't figure out why they're so popular. Maybe it's just the palette that I tried, but this is where I'm going to leave you all. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.